So, ring ring.
Ring ring.
Any feedback from the episode last recorded, whenever that was? Anything that you wanted to circle back to? Anything like that?
I don't know. For some reason, I was not expecting this question. I'm not sure. Did you have anything in mind?
Not really. No, I like to ask first. Like, since we haven't really promoted yet, I figured no one else put any feedback in, really, other than the few people we've had listen to.
Did your mom
help us
give
out.
us any feedback yet?
No. I was trying to show her how to listen because I was talking to her today. I call her and talked a minute, and she's like, "Oh yeah, this and this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you can listen." She said it's not everywhere yet. It's not easy to find, but you can listen on Spotify. She's like, "Oh, I have Spotify." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I was surprised, and she's like, "Oh wait, I click it and it says, do you want to install Spotify?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's kind of what I figured." Well, try clicking this, and maybe it might give you a little better luck there. But I didn't hear any other feedback, so I'm not sure if she made it or not. But if she made it, hi mom.
I guess I just call her Hi, Mrs. Patrick.
Hi, Mrs. Patrick. That'll be acceptable. I'm sure she'll probably answer to that. I feel like we're I don't know if you've listened to any of the jokes from IndieQ, but that's always the joke is Matt's mom is their only audience. You know, she just busy making lots and lots of accounts to listen and do upvotes and do comments in the Reddit to keep ask really good questions to keep his ego up, you know.
I do know about the whole Matt's mom thing, but are you saying Patrick's mom is the new Matt's mom?
Well, she hopefully not. Hopefully we have hopefully have a few others too. I don't want to keep my mom that busy. Although, yeah, I mean, maybe she'd like a hobby. You know, I don't know. Ask really good questions, Mom.
Our social media is going to be so busy with comments.
Oh, goodness gracious. All right then. Well, if we don't have any feedback from each other, then we were here to talk about the latest Star Wars movie, which was not in any way controversial for anyone, right?
It sounds like you've been on the internet.
Yeah. Well, so I do have a question that's kind of more general movie question.
Okay.
Whenever you go watch a movie, do you prefer to go in completely blind if it's something you know you're going to watch, or do you like to watch trailers and things and find out more information?
I like to watch trailers because I do like to know that what I'm going to see is possibly something I might like at the very least. But I don't like spoilers, which I think is pretty normal, but yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, what about you?
I like to go in completely blind if I can, if it's something I know I'm going to watch. Now, Star Wars, I did watch the first trailer because I know J.J. Abrams is notorious for, basically not showing or telling anything. And I guess we should probably put a warning here. I am assuming spoilers are allowed. I feel like everything I want to talk about is spoiler-ridden. So big spoiler warning for... the last Star Wars movie for a while, probably. Mandalorian doesn't count.
Are you in agreement with that? So there will be no
Me
Mandalorian
either.
Spoilers here.
Yeah, same. No, well, I mean, besides the meme that's everywhere, I'm sure you've seen. Yeah, I won't contribute to that, but there will be lots of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker spoilers, I feel like. But yeah, no, I know J.J. Abrams is really good about not spoiling anything, but also, I feel like I did not like the Emperor laughing at the end of the first trailer. I was like, wait, that's a big deal. The Emperor's dead as far as the,
right.
the Last Jedi. Yeah. And so I was like, wait, what? Again, that's a great way to get attention and get people to pay attention to, okay, this is definitely I want to see what's going on here. But I did not like that. That was a huge spoiler. Even though it was addressed basically in the first scene of Rise of Skywalker, I did not care for that. Apparently it didn't stick with you as much.
No, it did not. I also am not as well versed in Star Wars, or I just forget things really easily sometimes. So
fair enough.
When at the beginning when what's it called? When all the words are scrolling up? I was like,
the crawl, yeah.
Right, good. This is a good refresher on everything that happened last time.
Yeah. I like that too, and then it kind of gave some feedback or some background as far as what's going on too, which I always enjoy the crawl because it always seems like even though the movies are connected, there's always been a decent amount of status quo change from movie to movie, even though they're also pretty connected. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I felt like, especially from the first to the second movie, there was a lot of stuff going on, and then from the second to the third, even though director changes and all that kind of stuff played into that, I felt like it was still pretty different going into it. Rey was way more powerful, and Finn and Poe seemed a bit more, kind of confident about their abilities and whatnot. So it was I enjoyed it. I thought those parts were really good.
How much time was supposed to have passed between the second and third?
I don't know. Because also being honest, I don't exactly. I remember the second movie ended with Snoke getting killed, and then Kylo stepping up and being Supreme Chancellor King guy, but I didn't remember like what he was supposed to be doing after that. I don't remember that as much. Do you?
I just remember Rey and Kylo being like, join me, and then no, and then
yeah.
I feel like
no,
the
you
last
join me.
Yeah, I feel like the last thing I'm thinking of is just them looking at each other, being like, we didn't join each other. That's kind of like the end in my mind.
Not Luke, disappearing into the ether for no reason. It's we will not join each other. This will never happen.
Oh, right, that also happened.
Yeah.
This conversation is really good just to help me remember everything that happened.
Wink, wink. Yeah, totally not planned. It wasn't, but yeah, that's fine. Perfect. So, okay, I am curious, and I think it's important while we're at this part of the conversation. Then, general consensus of the internets seems to be that Force Awakens good, although basically the same movie as A New Hope, or the first actual Star Wars movie made. And then general consensus of Last Jedi is people love it or people hate it, and there's really not a lot of in between, so it's pretty mixed. And then it seems to be the same for this movie, that people generally like it, but it has problems. How do you fall on those things?
I would say, my consensus for this movie is like, overall I enjoyed it, but it definitely had some things I was like, yeah. Okay. What about you?
Same. Yeah, I feel the same. There were parts about it I loved. Like I felt like the action in this movie was better than the action on the last two of the new movies, The Force Awakens and Last Jedi. I really liked it. The cinematography was beautiful and the music was really, really great. Well, the music and all of them are really good, but those things, the effects were really good. I felt like the Force was really cool. Like, I felt like, the Emperor really showed his strength, but also Rey and even Kylo, and I felt like those guys really kind of, because I love the old movies. They're classic. They're wonderful, but it always seemed kind of like, the Force is such a big deal, but then they just grimace at the whatever they're trying to move for a long, long time, and a rock finally kind of pushes over the edge, and it's like, okay, I mean, that's cool and all, but the Emperor literally bringing down dozens of starcraft with his fingers. It's like, okay, that's what now you're making a compelling argument for the Force being something to be reckoned with.
Do you think, though, that if it goes from rocks to bringing down entire fleets of ships, that like it's a natural progression that makes sense?
I mean, in this instance, could be, because the Emperor has been stewing in his own whatever for however many.
Maybe we don't want to think too much about what he's been stewing in.
Fair enough, maybe, but he's been hanging out for a long time, and presumably not have much going on, and so he has nothing to do but shoot lightning at things and think about it. So I mean, if you got nothing else to do, I mean, that's part of the reason why Yoda was so bad to the bone, because he hung out at Dagobah for ever and ever for hundreds of years, and so yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense.
So the key to becoming powerful is isolation, basically.
And lots and boredom, extreme boredom. It's like, I wonder,
like hundreds of years.
Yeah, having giant ears and being a little bit short and yeah.
For a minute,
whatever.
I thought you were still talking about the Emperor, and I was like, what? I didn't even notice behind his hood.
Well, his hood came off at one point, but yeah.
And you were like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, dude, holy moly. Goodness gracious. But yeah, I thought that it may be in a little bit of a stretch from the other movies, but I felt like that it was way more entertaining to watch, and it was mostly believable. I felt like I felt like I really liked the effects too, like the practical effects used. You could tell that there was not a ton of CGI. There was definitely some, for sure, but where it mattered, they had good effects, and I like J.J. Abrams' use of good effects for the Star Wars movies because he's done really good with that.
Mm-hmm. The effects actually reminded me of Harry Potter, like a lot.
Yeah?
You haven't seen it, right? The movie?
I haven't, no.
Okay.
So I'm like, paint a picture for me.
Okay, I will keep no spoilers for you just in case. But basically,
I do want to watch it one day.
When they use like their wands and magic, it can have kind of like sparks flying, kind of like when they were using like lightning and stuff like that, kind of at the end
cool.
against each other.
Yeah.
Or not against each other. Maybe just anyways. But Yeah, and so when that scene was happening, part of me was just like, I really just want to watch Harry Potter again now, like the entire series, like all over again. And I was talking to my younger brother about it, and he was like, yeah, it did remind me of Harry Potter, actually. And I was like, yeah, like so much, like very viscerally.
That's funny. Well, maybe we should make that a podcast series. We can like circle back to the old Harry Potters. I could watch it for the first time, and then you can interview me on like, what did you think?
We'll do a Patrick Watches Harry Potter. It'll be like an 8-episode series.
Perfect. I like it. Well, is there only 8? I thought there was like 10 or 12 movies. I don't know.
No, there's 7 books, and then the last movie is split into 2 parts.
Ah, okay. You would know.
I would know, or at least I hope I know. Sometimes I get confused because I'm like, it was 7 books and then 8 movies, right? Right.
Did you read the books first or watch the movies first?
I watched and read all of them as they came out. So books first, and then I think the movie started coming out about halfway through the books.
Okay. Does the movies hold up against the books, or how?
They
what do you
really
like better?
did. I remember, I think the first movie came out maybe like halfway through the books, and it was such a huge deal. And I just remember being like, is this going to live up to like what I've thought about in my head for this? And I feel like it did an even better job than I did imagining what it looked like.
Wow.
Like it was like everything I'd kind of pictured, but in even more detail, and they just did a really, really good job with it.
So a little bit of a tangent, but have you watched a lot of movies that you have also read the books for previously?
A few. I'm trying to think of ones. I mean, I don't know how I feel about sharing this one, but
okay.
I read Twilight when I was younger and really enjoyed it. Actually, yeah. No,
you're of the right age, and that's fine. I'm not going to judge. Not my cup of tea, but I'm not judging.
Yeah. So I read Twilight when I was younger, and I loved the first book so much when I read it, and I was like, oh, I just want more of this. And I found out there was going to be like another book and then a movie, and I was so excited. And then, the movie was, not as good as the book.
Okay. I was curious where you fell on that. I actually heard the books were pretty good. But again, in the genre, whatever, so.
The movies. So one thing that I realized when I was watching the movies is I think in the book, there's all these like kind of in theory romantic lines that when you read in your head, you can make them make sense or make them sound like, oh, these are nice lines. But in the movie, it just seems so hard for them to not sound really like creepy or weird or like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I think at one point he's just like sitting on like in her bedroom, like on the edge of her bed or something. He's just like, I love watching you sleep. But like the way it came across was just like, very awkward feeling. Yeah.
And it's like that's one of those edits. Like, okay, what can we do to make this more clear? What is the intention here? Yeah,
and just like, there's like this one scene as well where he's like in the forest and he's like revealing himself to her, and he's like, tell me what I am, like, and she's like, you glitter in the sun and you're impossibly cold, and he's like, say it, like say what I am. It just feels so awkward.
Yeah, so you're there on a date or whatever, and you're like, okay, perfect, great, moving on. I did not anticipate a Twilight discussion. I have to be honest.
I did not. I thought that we would never ever discuss Twilight ever.
Well, there you go. Episode 2.
I mean, the first movie is actually kind of fun to watch in like a don't take it too serious, like it's kind of comedic kind of way.
I heard that about the last movie. Like the last movie was actually better, especially like the big battle at the end or whatever. But again, I'd never seen any of it, so I can't speak to that. So apparently you disagree, given the
well, even the books got kind of like, I think it was 3 books, or was it 4? The last one was really big, whatever it was. But yeah, by the end, it was getting a little questionable for me, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have not read very many books or movies. That's why I'd asked. I was curious if
I thought you were going to tell me you hadn't read Twilight, and I was like, that's not a surprise.
No, I have not read Twilight or watched the movies. No, but I always like wondered like why do people freak out about the movies or their book getting made to a movie or whatever. And then I realized I read Ready Player One. Boy, we're doing lots of no dumb questions drops here, but I read Ready Player One in conjunction with No Dumb Questions. They did a book club. That was their first book club book, and I listened to that on Audible, and it was so good. And I do highly recommend that book. There's a couple spots in it that's a little what's the word? We'll call it suggestive. A little suggestive, not terrible, but yeah. Especially if you're playing an audiobook, maybe not do that one with the kids in their car and a couple parts, some language in there and things.
Is this book geared towards like young adults or adults or both?
I would say probably geared towards older teenagers to younger. I would say, probably older teenagers to younger 20s. It's really good. I like to. I'm a little outside of that demographic, but I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic book. I do recommend it if you get a chance to listen to it. And then right after I read the book, I hear Steven Spielberg, of all people, is making the movie, and I said, "All right, this is great." And I watched the movie, and I was so disappointed.
Oh,
it wasn't. It wasn't bad. It was very much kind of like you were describing Twilight, and that except I don't know. I think I probably like Ready Player One more than you like Twilight, or at least how you described it. But I loved Ready Player One book. Movie was just like, oh, this is a mess. Like it was some enjoyable parts, but it was mostly a mess.
Yeah,
and way different.
I saw Ready Player One. I didn't read the book, but that is kind of what I heard was the consensus from people who read the book.
What did you think about the movie?
I felt it was like okay overall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember how,
It's very forgettable because they cram a lot into 2 hours.
I felt like I wasn't that connected to the movie. Like it didn't really matter to me at the end.
Yeah.
After I watched, I wasn't like, I feel like this mattered at all. It felt more. I think people made comments about how it just felt like they were trying to fit in as many references as possible.
Yeah.
And so it felt more like that than like, here's a story that's going to like move you. And yeah.
The book does a lot better job of fleshing those things out. And also, it's still a lot of references and things. It's not a perfect book in that some of the solutions can be a little bit like, there's no way you would ever figure this out more than likely. But it's still a really fun listen. And it's fun. I really love that movie. It's pretty great. The movie did a good job with the bad guy, actually. They fleshed him out a little bit because the bad guy in the book is just kind of he was kind of faceless, nameless kind of guy, and they did a little bit more with him in the movie, but that was like the only part in the movie that was better than the book. Everything else is just like, oh, okay. But speaking of the pace and everything, I can segue us right on back to Rise of Skywalker here.
I hope people we're not here only to hear about Rise of Skywalker because we have not done a good job at sticking to it.
No. But yeah, come on. It's nothing if we don't meander a little bit.
That's true.
If we're gonna establish that here, except whenever we start having guests in a couple episodes, then maybe they'll keep us on task a little bit. We'll see, or keep me on task. I'm sure you do it just fine.
Is that how we're gonna pick guests who can keep Patrick on on task, not on tangent? You do not need help with that.
No, I'm good on tangent. I'm good. But yeah, the pace was so, to me, getting into the more negative stuff on Skywalker, I felt like immediately whenever I was watching the movie that the pace was so just frantic. Like, this is a 2.5 hour movie, and I felt like it didn't stop. Like it, and that's not, and that can be a good thing, but it just felt like overstuffed, and that it was just, they had a lot going on, but at the same time it felt like they could have cut out a whole bunch of junk and tightened it up a little bit and maybe give some character development a little bit more, than because it didn't seem like to me that I don't know how to bring it to words, but it just seemed like it just kept going and just didn't, there's nothing, they just going from one point to the next, if that makes sense. It just didn't, it didn't seem like it was stick around for anything to happen.
Yeah, I think we had similar feelings on that, but like thought about in really, really different ways, because I think the thing I felt was that because it was like the end of a trilogy of trilogies, that this movie was like I think I was hoping it would feel like this whole series of like trilogies has been building to this moment.
Yeah.
And so I think I was hoping it would feel like it built more as the movie went along, but it kind of felt like, I think what you were saying is like, now we're here, now we're there, now this is happening, now that's happening, that it felt more like zigzagging rather than like going uphill, building towards like the end of everything.
And I thought the parts, I didn't have this in my notes, but I thought the parts where Kylo kept jumping in through the Force to where Rey was at, I like that as far as the torment, I guess, if you make sense, where he was messing with her. I like that part of it. From a villain standpoint, I think that's really cool. But it also, there's enough physicality there. It's like, okay, if he can just jump in wherever he's at, why? That's kind of that's really weird. How like, okay, why can't he just like jump in whenever they're flying somewhere or whatever, and then just slice open a something on the ship and they crash. Okay, there we go, mission accomplished. Bye bye.
I feel like I have two thoughts on that.
Okay.
One is that, could he fully just appear though? Wasn't it only like they could take stuff from each other?
Yes and no. I mean, they were having lightsaber battles. They were having like.
Oh, that's true. But that was still like the items, I guess, not like they were fully like teleporting.
So what they were in touch with, I guess. So they're what they were physically in contact with. Because at one point she knocked over that Darth Vader thing, and he figured out where she was at on their second fight. So I guess some of it just seemed the rules weren't clearly established.
Yeah, but, that's fair.
So I felt like that was pretty cool overall. But
yeah, I think the other thing though is that I don't think he wanted to kill her. Like
no,
that was
he wanted her to
too,
join him.
Right? So
yeah,
even if he could have, he probably didn't want to.
Yeah. So I do find this was you segued into another spot that I thought was interesting. His motivation seemed off and weird to me. Like, I understand why he would want her to join, but then just randomly throwing his lightsaber into the water, I was like, okay, I'm a good guy now. That seemed, it was obvious that he was going to end up doing the Darth Vader thing and coming back to the light side, but it just seemed random. Like, okay, she, takes him out and then heals him and then runs away, and then Han Solo shows up, which was really cool, and then now I'm a good guy, and that was it. And it's like, that doesn't seem earned. That seemed really weird to me.
I think I felt that way about his character throughout all the movies.
Okay. But it didn't be earned, it wasn't earned, or what?
Yeah, like I don't think I ever fully understood him, like why he was so angry at everything. And then also it just seemed like he shifted moods so easily, where it'd be like I don't remember the first two movies that well, so I'm trying to I just remember feeling that he was like, okay, now maybe I'll go with Rey. Now I'm like super upset and like will never join Rey and the light side. And it just felt like, I know people described it as like an angsty teen, I think.
Yeah,
the
I
first
think that's
couple
a good
movies.
description.
And watching the third movie, I was like, oh right, that's how I felt watching him before. Is that it never felt like there was enough character development for me for the motivations to make sense.
Yeah, like for me, whenever in the first movie, again, spoilers if we have not talked about it, but whenever he kills Han, and I was like, okay, they're going a different direction here. This is interesting. He's taking him out, and then this, that's the equivalent of Luke taking out, Darth Vader whenever he finds out this is my dad. Like, okay, nope, we're done here. It's like, no, so they're going a little different direction. I thought that was interesting. It's like, okay, he's troubled, but he's the bad guy. Okay, cool. This is interesting direction. I like that. And then they just kind of waffled it for the next couple movies. Like, well, I've got a heart of gold still, though. I got that Solo blood, and I don't know. I didn't totally buy that, I guess.
I think in the last movie, I was just still like, why is he so upset and wanting to join the dark side again?
So that, yeah, what I've been driving the conversation. What notes or interesting points did you bring in? Because I have a couple of more for sure, but I'm definitely curious where your thoughts are going on.
I mean, this conversation also did make me think of Rey just now, where I feel like her pull to the darkness was a little more interesting and a little more like, oh, it all makes sense at the end.
Yeah. Well, are you talking with Palpatine at the very end?
Well, just like, oh, that's where she comes from, and that's why there's such a pull towards the dark side, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt for me like that made a little more sense than Kylo's like back and forth.
Okay. Well, so to me, her pull to the dark side wasn't obvious, except for her want for revenge, which was totally understandable given when she figured out what happened. But are you talking about more of the arc over the 3 movies or just this last one? From what you remember.
I guess. I'm not really sure. And I'm like, maybe there isn't actually a huge difference in between their pulls to each side. So I'm trying to think through if there is a reason it feels a little bit different.
Okay. And that wasn't necessarily a challenge as much as I didn't notice it as much, so I'm curious.
I don't know. Well, I guess they explained kind of like her backstory with it too, right? Where she was so angry because of what happened with her parents. And then like the more she learned about that, the more it was like upsetting. And then they showed us those scenes as well. And you're like, okay, I can understand why like she didn't want to think about that and why she's so angry. And the whole, anger and hate leads to the dark side and all that stuff. Whereas with Kylo, there wasn't really a lot of explanation except like, I want to be bad and I want to be good. And it was like, okay.
Yeah, because he had supposedly really good parents and had all this great upbringing. He had Luke Skywalker training him and all this, and it's like, no, I'm bad. Yeah, they're bad people. I don't like them. Yeah,
my younger brother reminded me, but like Luke tried to kill him almost one night in one of the earlier movies. I was like, oh, well, that's fair that he'd be angry at that. But he was angry before that, I thought, too.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole reason why Luke wanted to do that. It's like, okay, there's darkness in him, we're taking him out, and so I don't really. The whole if that was the leading up point, Luke had a feeling and he acted wrongly, and it's like, okay, well, I could see that, and it's like, okay, these people can't be trusted, but yeah, it was that this was going on for a while, so that kind of explains it, but not really. So while we talked about the end, that kiss at the end.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, all right. I was wondering, like, I
would you like to go first?
I audibly said, "What?" I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Internally, I was just like, "Oh no, they're not going. No."
Yeah. Okay. I was curious if that was just me. I'm like, okay, am I just being a curmudgeon here? I'm like, what? Okay. Gee whiz. Again, there's always been like a little bit of tension between the two of them.
But it never felt like that kind of tension.
No, nothing romantic or anything else going on there. And that's like, wait, what?
So
okay.
I read one comment on Reddit that made me think, okay, like maybe? And it was just saying that like they had such a deep connection that like, I guess that was a way to express that. And I was like, I guess they're like, there's definitely other ways they maybe could have expressed that would be less like romantic and awkward all of a sudden out of the blue, but like
a nice high five or something.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I have no life left in me. I will use my last energy to high five you. And we will be like, don't use your strength. I'll high five you. You just keep your hand open there.
I would have totally watched that. That would have been great.
I mean, that even sounds a little romantic.
The most romantic high five ever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, podcast name right there. I love it. The most romantic high five.
Also, the Rise of Skywalker, and people will be like, I don't understand. Did I miss something in the movie?
The Rise of Skywalker, the most romantic high five. Oh gosh, that's great. Okay, I'm glad you're on board with that, because I was like, no, that's
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad he disappeared after it's all said, or after it's all said and done. But okay, I'm gonna go into
Also,
but
the way you said that just reminds me of like someone like regretting doing something with someone and be like, oh, if they would just disappear into the night, that would be wonderful.
and then they do, and you're like, oh no, I must be careful what I do with this power.
Like literally just like disappear.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I didn't mean like that much.
Yeah. Okay, I meant figuratively. Please. Oh no. Oh my. So how do you feel about all the disappearing people? I guess you can, from my tone, probably infer what I think. But Luke doing his super awesome Force thing in the second movie and fighting Kylo and then disappearing because he's spent. And now same for Kylo. I guess it's a little more believable that he basically gives his life energy to Rey and then disappears. But I don't understand why people keep just fading off into the distance.
So I know that I don't know or remember as much about Star Wars as other people might. And so when I watched it, I was like, oh, is that a thing that I didn't know or forgot about? And then they cut to like Leia also disappearing. I was like, oh, is this like a family thing they do?
It's a Skywalker thing. Yeah. They just walk in the sky,
And I'm like, maybe since Rey has officially named herself a Skywalker, she will also disappear.
I don't think I'll claim the name at that point.
So it was definitely one of those things where I was like, oh, I guess that's a thing. That is definitely new information to me. But again, my brother was explaining to me that it might be an idea like that they're so connected to the Force that they become one with the Force after.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's why they disappear. I was like, oh, that's a good explanation. Works for me.
But Kylo was barely on the light side for like 15 minutes before.
Wait, but isn't the Force, the dark side is the Force too, isn't it?
True, I guess that's true. But
or maybe, that conversation with Han Solo just connected him so much to the Force that, he completely shifted 180 in like 10 minutes and then it was done.
10 minutes in movie time. How long was it in Star Wars time? Who knows?
Or maybe the act of maybe the act of giving basically his life to Rey was like enough to be considered good side.
So the Force judged him worthy of disappearing.
Wait, but if the dark side is also the Force, would people who are so on the dark side also disappear?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, so I understand they have more, like the dark side, the super powerful dark side people are much more able to manipulate life. So like Palpatine was draining their life force, whatever. Too much force usage here, but he was draining their life force. That's how he restored himself. So Darkseid has different uses, I guess. So I guess it's theoretically possible. I don't know. I'm not a super. I know a little bit about Star Wars. I'm not a super nerd, so it's like somebody who is. This is a great call to action. Somebody who is a super duper Star Wars person, please comment on the Reddit and tell us.
And we apologize if we get anything wrong or very, very wrong.
In my case, almost certainly wrong. But,
so in my case, just forgotten, just like don't know anymore.
Yeah, you know it's kicking around in your head. You just forgot. So it's all me. It's all my fault. So actually, that's an interesting thing. I didn't understand the whole dyad situation. So were they meaning the dyad of the Force between Kylo and Rey? They were talking. I guess their lineage was supposedly really great. You know, Palpatine obviously is quite amazing, but the Skywalker lineage is also interesting. But what connection is there besides, Luke and Palpatine having a fight that one time? Why is this now? Why are these people connected? What's this special dyad? Where does that go? Did I miss something there?
I also yeah. Are you thinking of the? Sorry, my brain's just so like I don't understand. Yeah, so I was so confused when Emperor Palpatine was basically taking their life force, and he was like, "Oh, I'm fueled by your connection," and I was like, I don't understand. like they are connected for sure. Mm-hmm. And is it just because their families are super powerful?
Yeah, that's so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me.
And then
so does it... Like, I'm thinking like from a modern day perspective, and it's like, so we have the children of the Obamas and the children of the Bushes and the children of the Trudeaus, and it's like, okay, are these people because they're children of famous politicians, so they're super, I mean, yes, there's some connection there, but, if they get together, does that mean now we have super politics? What does that mean? I don't understand.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. But movie stuff, I don't understand. Like, okay, well, cool. Somebody who's a child of somebody powerful. So yay, now we have superpower, I guess.
When that was happening, I was also like, wait, did I? Okay, because I think who their parents were was kind of confusing to keep up with at moments.
Yeah.
And so for a minute, I was like, wait, did I forget? Is Rey like the daughter of one of the Skywalkers, and that's how they're... And I'm like, no, that's not it. Yeah. Or is it? I don't think it is. I was just like confused for a minute.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer to that.
And what's interesting too on that is, again, this is more of a nitpick, and again, the Star Wars people could certainly point to extended universe or whatever, and say, no, Palpatine definitely had children, but it has never been suggested, alluded to, or anything that Palpatine had any offspring. Like, he's never had, never been suggested that he had a wife or kids or family or anything like that. So nothing there. And then all said, oh, by the way, I had kids and a grandkid, and I want that person to no longer be alive. It's like, what?
Yeah.
By the way.
By the way, whole other life. Didn't tell you guys about.
I guess it's not super surprising. It's just like not even suggested in the movies. Like, there's nothing there to lend anything to that.
Yeah, I felt like the last 20 to 30 minutes of the movie was a lot of like, oh, by the way, here's some new information that we haven't really hinted at, but here you go. So it all makes sense. And I was like, oh, these are all new things. Maybe they're things I don't know about in the Star Wars universe, but I feel very like just a lot of new information being thrown at me to, have the story make sense.
To balance out the negative, though, how cool was that using their little always being in touch and being able to physically be near one another for her to pass a lightsaber to Kylo?
That was very cool. I love that.
That was
moment.
Super satisfying. Yeah,
it was so
I was like, that was
she
really
did
neat.
Too. I was like, oh, nice.
That was one of those things that they had shown that off a bunch. And probably, if I'd been paying attention, that would have been kind of a telegraphed thing. But I missed that. I was like, oh, that was super cool, actually. But my goodness, I so saw that end coming. Whenever
which part of the end?
Kylo giving his life force to Rey. I saw that so they basically screamed it throughout the entire movie for me. Like, whenever she heals the snake thing, I'm like, oh, that's a cool power. So that kind of makes sense, because the dark side can create life and do this, but so the light side can heal and whatnot. That seems pretty cool. It's not really been a super talked about part, but it seems like a logical step for the Force, I feel like, for really powerful light side people. And then she heals Kylo. And after she stabs him, and I'm like, I can see he's gonna end up healing her at the end. She's gonna be on death's door, and he's gonna return the favor. I can feel it. And as soon as she collapsed and he crawls out of the hole, I'm like, yep, here it comes. I'm like, I'm not good at predicting stuff in movies, but I saw that. I'm like, yep, here it comes. I'm like, good grief. It's like, come on, movie, surprise me. And like, I saw that as soon as whenever she healed him and I was like, oh man, I know where this is going, and I hated that.
Yeah,
Did you follow that?
So I didn't actually expect it, but mostly because they definitely hinted at it where when she was healing the whatever the creature was, and after it was like, oh, you gave some of your life to the creature, and I was like, oh, of course I did. Like, you would do the same. And I was like, wait, she has to give up her life to heal these things? And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense. And I think it's because I just finished watching Avatar. And Avatar The Last Airbender, not the movie, the series. But also, I don't know if this is a spoiler in case anyone hasn't seen it but wants to watch it. Yeah, Avatar, even though it's super, super old. But anyways, the water people can heal, right? And I don't think it takes their life force at all.
No, it's just part of their bending.
And so I had become used to that kind of framework of healing. And so I just kind of ignored that comment in the movie. And then at the end, I was like, wait, he has to give up his life to save her? And so I did not expect it, but mostly due to my own confusion and not listening to what they actually told us.
And it wasn't totally clear, like, okay, so if to heal him, like, did she give up 5 years, 10 years, or what, it's not totally clear how that works.
Because it didn't seem to affect her at all.
Yeah,
it
there's
just seemed
no
like
weakness
she was putting
or anything.
effort in, rather than like, oh, that like took something.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, it took something? Yeah.
Well, while we're on the quibbles too then, so that spy guy, like, the spy that was super important to the first half of the movie, do you remember, like
oh yeah, for a minute I was like, what spy guy? Oh, right.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah.
That guy.
Yeah, he was super important for the first half of the movie, and then he basically, I just can't let Kylo win, and then he dies later. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, I think they didn't fully explain his story, maybe.
No. Okay, I was wondering if maybe you caught something that I missed.
Yeah, because also he was better. Like, oh, like hurt me so they'll know it, like, it wasn't me. And they're like, well, no, we know. It's like, oh, okay. I guess didn't do much.
I did laugh at that whenever the guy just he's like, all right, yeah, boom, took him out. And like, oh crap. And like, okay, well, it was pretty funny.
Maybe that was the whole purpose of it then.
Yeah, it's like, all right, we're gonna like, we're not stupid. We're just Empire. Come on.
Yeah.
We're evil, not stupid. It's different. What did you think about Lando?
Oh, I thought it was really cool when he came back. I was like, oh, they're bringing everyone back. It's really nice.
Yeah. My note was literally, Lando was cool, but kind of random.
Oh, I thought you were going to say your whole note was just Lando. Like, that's all that's there.
Yeah, I thought it was cool to have him in there, and he definitely has put some age, but he still had that voice, man. His voice is great. Yeah.
Also, thinking about Lando, it also reminded me at the end where the like former stormtrooper girl, he was like, where are you from? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, let's find out. And I was like, oh, are they setting something up?
She's totally the daughter. Come on.
And then I was talking to my family after, they're like, I don't think so. Or like, I was like, oh, is there supposed to be like a series that follows or something? Like, nope. And
that'd be a great Disney Plus series. Something to tie into Mandalorian or something. Yeah.
It seemed like it was setting it up for something, but maybe it's just she's his daughter and that's all there is to it. After the movie, when we were talking, people made a good point of like, why does no one have normal, healthy relationships with their like offspring in this like world?
For real. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like everything is super intense, and you're the chosen one, etc. And by the way, yeah, or not, and like it's very intense. We can always, so we were both in agreement that Lando ultimately was cool. I think I was maybe a little more like, it's kind of random, but I dug it. Oh, you talked about his daughter, Lando's daughter.
Right.
Or
are people sure?
Presumably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I totally understand why they had to do it, because with the actress passing away before the movie even started filming, why they had to just, end things with Leia. I totally understand that. But, man, it seemed really clunky the way they did it. And again, I understand why. I don't know how they could have done it better. Frankly, they did it as good as they did, considering. But did that seem like suddenly like, whoa, okay, yikes, okay, she passed away, okay, wow. Was that random to you?
Well, I thought that was because she was speaking to Ben, and that took all of her energy. I thought was what was implied.
Okay.
It was like, I will use my last bit of strength to like communicate to him, to be like, you're an okay son. And then she's like, and now I have used my energy. Goodbye. You know
what? You know why that didn't fit to me? Because
I like the laugh already.
I stepped out for a restroom break, and I came back, and I was like, and I must have missed the talk then. Okay, well,
now I
know what I missed. Yeah.
I was like, oh, did you just leave and come back? And she's just like, goodbye. And you're like, wait, what?
Did that happen like decently before the Han Solo scene? Because it seemed like,
so it was
suddenly just cut to her gone. It's like, whoa, okay.
It was when Rey and Kylo Ren were fighting, out in the water.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that fight.
Well, do you remember when she was like, I must like communicate with him now?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, maybe that's when you left then.
Must have been. Why would I leave in the middle of a fight?
That
was a good one too.
Well, because I think maybe the fight cut back to like the main command center.
Oh, maybe so. Okay.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Oh, Leia knows what she must do," and then she like went away, and then I think she. You should have been able to
answer that question. Why I left at that point? Come on.
You're just like, I gotta go. It's a fight scene, but whatever. And everyone's like, "Why are you bothering us?"
I told everybody who I was not even there watching a movie with, because I was by myself, They're like, hey guys, listen, I need to step away for a second. Like, we don't care.
I don't know you. I'm trying to watch the movie.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, well then, I retract my statement. It wasn't totally random. Yeah. It was... it was my fault.
I was a slightly bit confused about what was happening there, though, in the sense I think she just went Ben, and like... that was all that happened, and then it made him stop long enough that like Rey got a hit on him.
Oh, and that's I was there for that. Where was I? I must have not been paying attention.
I thought I was the one who was supposed to be getting confused and forgetting things.
Yeah, I remember whenever she got a hit on him. I remember that because that's when she did the healing thing. I just went on about that for a minute ago.
Yeah, because I was like, how did you see all of that and then miss this one moment like right before he got hit?
I must have fell asleep.
Yeah, apparently.
It's such a boring part of the movie. No, not really. I really love the fights.
Because I think after that, she was like done. Like she just used up all her energy to do that. But I kind of wonder what her goal was then.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. They talked to him and then let Rey get a hit on him, and then it's like, all right, well, my job is done.
Because I thought she was going to reach out to him and be like, Ben, you're still, I don't know, like, you can come home anytime or something, really loving like
Prodigal
that.
son, yeah.
And instead it seemed like she just distracted him for a second for Rey to, like, try to kill him. And I was like, oh, was that what she was hoping
motherly.
For?
Yeah. Yeah, that's not very motherly. That's kind of weird. But okay, well, I guess he did kill her, her ex-husband, so it's like, all right, I got this, Kind of
I feel like Leia's so good, and just this other side of her. That's like, I totally forgive you, but also.
The actually super dark Skywalker here. It wasn't Vader.
No.
It was Leia.
I mean, Luke tried to kill Kylo Ren, or Ben, as he might have been called then. But maybe he wasn't, I don't remember. But yeah, he tried to kill him and then was like, no, it's not a good idea. And then maybe Leia was like, nah, I'm stronger than you, Luke. I'm going to do it.
No, you made the wrong call. Let me just handle this.
Speaking of Leia, did you know that she was training to be a Jedi?
No, I did find that to be a bit random. I didn't put that in my notes.
Because I was like, oh, was that a thing I was supposed to know beforehand? Or like,
yeah.
Oh, by the way, new info.
Yeah. So it seems like in The Last Jedi she did some... Oh, yeah. She had that one bit of force power where she pulled herself in from space.
Oh, right.
Do you remember that?
I totally
Yeah.
forgot about that. Yes.
Because that was weird. That was like, oh, okay.
Which movie was that? The first or the second?
That was the second one.
Okay.
So I really liked the second movie. Like, people hated on that one. I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Different. The humor was a little bit weird at times. I feel like Luke Skywalker was much more Joker humor because, Mark Hamill, he voiced the Joker in the Batman cartoons, and
I learned that a few years ago, and I was very surprised, and then
I was too
impressed.
Have you ever? There's YouTube videos of him monologuing, doing the Joker monologue, and it's creepy but super impressive. It's like, oh wow, that man needs to do a live action Joker. He's great.
It's so good. I was like, I just want to see him do more of it live because it's so impressive and very like, whoa, your voice can do that. Very cool.
Do you watch The Flash?
I do not watch The Flash.
He has done a couple of episodes where he plays a Joker-esque character.
Ooh.
He's done 2 or 3 episodes, and the Trickster. That's who he plays. The Trickster is the name of the character. He chews it up. He does such a great job. Mm-hmm. And if that's probably the closest you'll get to see Mark Hamill playing a live-action Joker, but it's great. I do recommend that very, very highly.
That's very cool. I feel like he's very good then at these like Joker Trickster characters.
Well, we're basically through my notes. What other notes did you have, or did you have any other?
I thought you were about to be, well, this has been fun. I finished my notes. We can call it a night. Good night.
No. Just my notes. I'm trying to look and see. The only other thing I had, I thought it was a little weird that it suddenly, like, okay, Leia dies and Poe is general now. Like, what? That's random. Yeah, there seems like a whole place of people here, and I mean, Poe was great. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, okay.
He seemed like the General guy who was always off on like missions and never with everyone, which made it seem weird for him to be the general. Yeah.
And then Finn was co-general because he's my buddy, and that's how military works.
And then they were like, "Oh, thanks, General. I'm like, "But how do you differentiate who's who then when they were just talking while flying and no one can see each other?"
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna get a little political here, and to be like, yeah, okay, it's like, no, we have presidents. Like, no, I don't want to be president by myself. You are also my president. We are co-presidents, not vice president, co-president.
And then, president, what do we do? Wait, which one of us are you talking to?
I'm speaking to myself. President, what should I do? Well, let me just tell me. I would. Anyway, I think that's not too political.
President and co-president.
President and co-president.
I mean, you're just naming political positions. I don't think there was much more politics than that.
Fair enough. I
mean, unless it's like prime ministers versus presidents, which do you prefer? I don't know.
Or king and co-king, or queen and co-queen.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I mean, Canada does have a queen. Do you know who your queen is?
What do you mean? Do I know who my queen is?
Do you know who your queen is? I just recently learned that Canada had a queen. I was like, whoa, okay, then that's cool.
Wait, like, not like the queen?
Wait. So is the Queen of England also your queen?
I thought.
Is that how that works? I don't know. I don't know.
I thought so.
I have no idea.
I thought so. I feel like I'm being quizzed right now.
I just learned that. I was like, well, I have. It just hit my mind. So we're talking about politics. Like, okay, wait, Queen of Canada. Hold on.
I mean,
is she also the Queen of Australia?
I feel like this might need a Google search.
No. If the internet is kind about anything, it's going to be Star Wars and politics. Now we just need to bring up religion, and we'll have everything covered.
It's a real good episode too. Really nice and silly and mundane.
Politics, religion, and the Queen.
And I mean, I thought we just had like I thought it was just the Queen, but now I'm like, wait, do we have a secret queen I don't know about that's just the Canadian Queen?
That's a good question. Follow up for the next episode. Answer in the Reddit, people. What do you think? Why should we have to do the work?
I feel like people are probably better informed than we are.
Well, when we started this podcast, I will put myself here. I never claimed to be an expert at anything, so what about you?
I am definitely not an expert, or I just don't remember a lot of things. So I may know something at some point and then just completely forget and have to re-look it up.
So what you are an expert in, you have forgotten, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
That and maybe like being unsure if I know if something is correct or not.
Well, then I have learned something about you. It's like you answer something with confidence until I ask you a question. You're like, wait, now I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I was like, well, it's just the Queen, and you're like, but do you know who your Queen is? I was like, wait, what? Is this something that is Queen? Different than what I know?
I am almost certainly wrong, so I'm not sure about that. But at any rate, I'm the same way. It's like I answer something with confidence, and then somebody will push back in some way. It's like, well, what about this? It's like, I don't actually know. It's like, but you answered so confidently. Well, I thought I knew, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Also, I said the Queen, knowing that also there are like queens for other countries as well.
Yeah,
she's not the only the Queen. But because suddenly I doubted that I even knew her name, I was like suddenly just doubting everything. I was like, wait, do I even know her name, or am I wrong on that too? I'm like, oh no, just immediate doubt of everything.
Are you even in Canada right now?
Mm-hmm. And I was like, I know there's other queens out there. She's not like the queen of everything. But
I mean, if she's your queen, she's the queen, right? I mean,
well, she's not your queen.
No, she's not. No. Mm-mm. America.
I just picture you saving that clip of America and just inserting it every opportunity you get.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Well, what do you think of America? What? Totally gonna put that everywhere that's appropriate, which is probably not very many places in a Star Wars discussion, but maybe I can figure something out. Oh, goodness gracious.
Man. Okay, so I actually have a few other notes. Were you going to say something, though?
I had one really important point to make, but I'm going to save it for the end. So let's do your notes first.
Okay. Some of them are just small things, like Rose and Finn.
The girl from the second movie, right? She was just like relegated to nothing in this movie, right?
Yeah, but also I thought they had like a romantic connection in the previous movie, and then it was like it just never happened, and no one ever talked about it. And then Finn was all, Ray, I need to tell you something, and then he never told her ever. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like I think I was waiting the entire movie.
It came up like 3 times too, like because he was gonna tell Poe.
So I was waiting the entire movie to find out what he was going to tell her, and it was like it was getting closer and closer to the end. I'm like, it'd be kind of weird now to do it, and it was at the scene, the final scene where it's like a callback to the original movie, where she's like where Luke was raised and all that stuff. Yeah, and I was like, oh, I guess it's not happening at this point, because they're definitely not going to have Finn show up. Like, by the way, the thing I needed to tell you, and that's the final moment.
That would have been awesome. Like, he just, like, flies in, just swoops in, it's like, by the way, you're a Palpatine.
Yeah. And instead of being a really good wrap-up of the entire, like, all the movie, it's just Finn being like, I never told you.
It's like, you may not know this, but you're actually a Palpatine. And she's like...
Well, it seemed like... I mean, it kind of seemed like he might tell her he has feelings for her. Was kind of how it was feeling, but then also like what happened to Rose and him? Yeah. And then he just never told her, so I don't know. Did the internet
have anything to say about that?
I haven't actually read too much on the internet yet about
I haven't either. Yeah, I was curious about that.
And so it was just kind of like a weird, they brought it up so many times only to leave it unanswered. Yeah.
So on a more positive note, I thought I actually really liked you're bringing in how silly that would have been had Finn come riding in on a tauntaun or whatever, and like, hey, by the way. But I actually really liked how the movie was pretty light on humor. Like, it wasn't dark and depressing, but it was more serious than the other 2 movies, because the other 2 movies were really distractingly jokey. Like, I love good humor. I love a good, good funny movie, but they were distractingly so, and I really liked this movie being a bit more serious, and they had a couple jokey spots, but it was mostly very serious, and I dug that. Did you notice that, or did you have any thoughts on that?
I found there was a few jokes, but they landed really well. Like, they weren't a distraction for the movie. They were like, oh, that was pretty funny, and made sense to everything. And so I actually quite enjoyed the humor they had in the movie. I'm trying to think of an example, but I can't right now. But yeah, same. I know our theater got like quite a few laughs that were like pretty good laughs.
Yeah, it was the same. It was a couple of good punches, but they were like, it was not excessive, and like I say, they were good, and they seemed to make sense in the movie, because I think that was the other 2 movies. They were jokes for the sake of, we need to have a joke here, and it pulls you out of the movie in a way. Like to me, when the second movie started and Luke threw the lightsaber after Rey handed it to him, I'm like, I understand what they were going for with that, but it's like, okay, that's a really stupid way to start the movie. Like, even if they're trying to start, they're trying to basically say, hey, this is a different kind of Star Wars movie. I get that, I respect that, but that was a stupid way to start. It's like, come on, there's no way even a former Jedi is going to throw the lightsaber that somebody just comes up and hands to you. It's like, look what I brought you, and throw the lightsaber. It's like over your shoulder carelessly, like, I don't give a rip, and then go.
Wait, that wasn't supposed to be a joke, was it?
Yes, it was played for humor.
Really?
Yeah, Rey just made this big long trek to find Luke, and she finds him the, just wonder in her eyes, handing him the lightsaber, like, I finally found you. He takes the lightsaber, looks at it, and tosses it over his shoulder like rice. And then he goes to one of those little creatures and milks them and drinks their blue milk. And it's like, that's just weird.
What am I watching?
Yeah, he's like, oh, so that's what we're in for. But that movie did get a lot better. But I was like, that's really, really, and it was totally played for laughs. And I did not dig it. But so yeah, I like the more serious tone for this movie.
You did remind me of a part of the movie that was funny, but also I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be funny. But when Kylo Ren jumps to the big chain, and he's like, "Ugh," when he like hits the chain. Do you remember that?
On this latest movie?
Yeah, on the latest movie. It's like at the end when he's trying to get to Rey in time with Emperor Palpatine.
I'm trying to think. So he jumps to the chain.
I think I think it's at the end.
So like when he jumps down?
Mm-hmm, down, and there's like a giant chain that he lands on.
I don't remember that.
Okay, so anyways, he makes this huge jump, and it's very quiet in the movie. Like there's no music at this point, I think, or anything. And all you hear is when he like hits it. And like it was just so unexpected because people always like get hit really hard. They like land on things really hard, and no one ever really. It's never really a big thing, or there's so much action going on that if they are reacting, you don't hear it. But it was so silent, and all you hear is ugh. And it was so realistic that like people would be like that if they hit a huge chain, but like it was so unexpected. Everyone like laughed. I was like, is this supposed to be a joke or not? I don't know.
Now I want to like go back and rewatch that and be like, okay, I'm gonna go pay $10 for a ticket so I can watch this. Like, oh, that was funny.
It's the only reason you're gonna rewatch it.
Totally. So I want to make my last really important point, and if you have anything else, feel free to follow up after. But this is like super important.
Okay. It's either going to be very important or very not important at all. I'm not sure which way it's going to go yet.
Well, you remember, did you ever watch Lost? I think we talked about this before, but I don't remember.
No, it was one of those shows. I was like, maybe I'll watch this one day, and I never did.
I would recommend tentatively yes.
Except, are you about to spoil all of it for me?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
You probably won't be able to fully appreciate my point I'm going to make then if you haven't seen Lost. So
okay.
There's a guy in Lost. He's a British guy. He's a blonde fellow, and he's pretty important in the first couple seasons for sure. And J.J. Abrams, as you may know, was the creator of Lost, kind of what got him on the map. And so that same blonde guy actor, he had small parts in this movie, and it wasn't anything like important, but every time I saw him, I'm like, whoa, you're Lost guy. What are you doing here in Star Wars? You know, it was very, very distracting. Oh. Like every time he was on the screen, and I'm like, oh, hey, Lost guy, you're back, you know, and it also doesn't help that your command center's in the woods, so it kind of looked like a similar type of scene as Lost. It's like, well, hey, Lost guy, again, you're here. So very distracting. Also, it doesn't help too that this guy doesn't look like he's aged a day since the 15 years that it's been since Lost has been there. So like, good on him. He must moisturize or something.
I was gonna say, I feel like there's some Lost explanation for that, knowing very little about the show, but knowing a lot of weird things happen there.
My goodness, does it have some weird stuff. It's a good movie, but I mean a good show, but that's also part of the reason why I started watching Person of Interest, actually. One of the characters one of the actors who plays a person that I'm not going to spoil in Lost, because if you do watch it, it's interesting. But he plays an important character in Lost, and then he's also one of the main characters on Person of Interest. And I'm like, oh, I like this guy. He's really interesting. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was part of and when J.J. Abrams produced, and then Jonathan Nolan writes and created Person of Interest, I'm like, all right, yep, nope, this is a Patrick show. I'm going to watch this.
I just see your list of favorite shows is called Patrick Shows.
Patrick Shows, totally.
I feel like I have like maybe 3 other points.
Okay.
So there was one thing when we were talking about the moment between Rey and Kylo Ren at the end.
The kiss?
Yeah. So one thing for me is that I don't think I realized it until that moment, but they've always kind of felt like almost like siblings to me.
Yeah, that's much more of a brotherly, sisterly relationship.
And I don't know if it's because of the, like, all their parents are very mixed up top, and then also Luke and Leia kind of almost like adopted Rey. And then, and also, I guess the theme of, like, Luke and Leia since the beginning, right? Is like that sibling bond. I guess almost just made me think of them in that way, too.
I hadn't made that connection before. That's a really good point.
So I thought it was actually kind of a cool
it's intentional
theme too, as well, like to bring that theme through the whole trilogy. But then, then it got like kind of romantic for a minute, maybe, unless it meant something else. I was like, oh.
I mean, maybe it's getting like super, just not unlike the Luke Leia kiss at the end of
that's true.
Whatever.
Maybe it's bringing it all back there.
What? Oh, and by the way, totally not a Palpatine. You're a Skywalker for realsies.
Wait, when that happened in the original movies, was it supposed to be romantic and they didn't know yet that they were siblings? Okay, yeah. Yes. That's what I thought, but I was like, I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Yeah,
because Luke realized and was like, oh no. So, yeah, that was totally a thing. Which was totally, like, as an audience member, like, very uncomfortable. It's like, oh.
So maybe they are bringing that theme back. But this time they're not siblings. It just feels like that kind of bond.
It just feels weird regardless. It's like, wait, what? Okay. What else do you got? Or did you have more points than this?
Nope. That was the 1 point for that.
Okay. Not trying to rush you along. I was just...
No, it's all good.
Okay.
Okay, so the other thing that... I guess when we were talking about the movies after, right? One of my brothers made the point that the second movie was made by a different director, and a lot of people online were saying that that he threw in a lot of new ideas, or threw out ideas that they had been building up for the first one. And so it might be why the third one was so kind of all over the place with like, oh, we have to address this and this and this, and like we had been building towards this idea, but then to change that, so now we have to redo it. And so I wonder if that's part of why it felt like the pacing was kind of weird and why they felt like they had to put so much in.
I felt like the stuff that was different, there's definitely some different stuff, but I felt like the main thing that they had to circle back to was Rey's parentage, because basically they built up the first movie to her parentage was very important, and the second movie they undid that and it's like, no, your parents are nobody, that's why it's such important, because you're a nobody and your parents are a nobody. And then the third movie they basically just waved their hand away. It's like, well, they were nobody because they chose to be nobody.
I like that explanation.
Yeah, but again, there was a couple things like that, but that was it. It was just like a couple little hand wavy things. It wasn't, to me, and again, easy for me to say, I'm not a movie maker, I'm a podcaster. It's completely different, but totally now. Episode 2, here we go. To me, that shouldn't be a reason for it to have been so all over the place. I don't think.
I think the one thing that I thought about with that was, I know for the Marvel movies and the Avenger movies, it sounded like they had people who were thinking through like every single movie and the overarching story through all of that. And I thought because I think they knew this was going to be a trilogy, I thought they would have had the overarching story already planned out. So even if they brought in a new director, they still would have been following, at least in general, the same plan. Yeah. And so
that would make sense.
If that wasn't the case, it seems very surprising.
Yeah, I agree with that, because basically we've had 3 movies and we've had, essentially we've had 3 different sets of bad guys. They're all under Kylo, but like you've had so you had the First Order, I think the second movie they were called something else, and the third one, it was the Final Order. These are Palpatine's people and whatever. So, I mean, it's just kind of like you say, it's just kind of all over the place. It kind of feels the same because they're all stormtroopers, but they're all, like, owned and run by different people. This is all kind of mishmashed. That has tangential connections to Kylo. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's true. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. So, like you say, I think it's a really good point in that. I was like, okay, it doesn't seem like somebody up top had a really clear idea of what they were going to do here.
Yeah, so I thought that they would have had that, given, how big a universe Star Wars is and how much the story matters to many, many people. And
Disney.
Yeah, and Disney, yeah. Yeah, because Disney also owns both of them now, so.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed.
So my final thought.
Final thoughts.
Is that even though we have, like, lots of problems, not problems, but, like, there's, like, a lot of little things where it's like, does this make sense and all that kind of stuff with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I thought, too, was just, it's really amazing that they've had 9 movies for this, like, universe and, like, that have spanned so many decades and have meant so much to so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of, like, how perfect, I guess, the last movie was or not, I just thought that that's a really, really cool, impressive, amazing thing to have, like, accomplished.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's ultimately, like I said, I think we said at the beginning, but it was largely a thumbs up. Like these are mostly quibbles, like that are kind of that had been improved would have made a good movie, like, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. I think ultimately the whole package, it's impressive. So where do you fall on the 3 newest Star Wars movies? Like, as far as...
Oh, wait. Can you ask me this question in a moment? I have one more thought on this, relating to this thought.
Okay.
Okay. So I remember reading this article many, many years ago. I think maybe when some of the later movies were coming out, there was this article in the newspaper about a guy talking about how much Star Wars meant to him. And so he had grown up when the movies were coming out. And so he was, like, of that era when, like, oh my gosh, the amazing new technology and, like, finding out the whole Darth Vader and father thing right when it was happening. And it was cool to think back just to, like, how much these movies meant in that way to people. Because I think when I was thinking of Harry Potter at the end, I was like, oh yeah, this movie is that for some people who grew up with it right when it was happening.
Except it carried over 20 years, or, well, in Star Wars cases, 40 years.
Exactly. And so I've always really liked the movies, but not to that same level of, like, this is something so nostalgic that, like, changed my world when I was young.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, it's really cool that is a thing, and that they've managed to keep this going for so long.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Marvel movies are the closest thing for us, but you know, they've 20-something movies in now and still chugging right along. So it's interesting. It's a little different in my mind.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about it when they were bringing things back, like, oh, this is like the Death Star, and I was like, oh right, this feels like such a lived-in universe, like with a real history. I love
that Death Star crash site. That was super cool, wasn't it?
Like, it just felt like a real world with, like, real history, and I thought that was just such a cool feeling, which also made me think of all this.
I really liked how J.J. Abrams paid homage, because he did the same thing in the first movie too, pulling in the older people, but also pulling in some really cool history from different crashed Death Star pieces and Star Destroyer pieces and all that kind of stuff. They did a really cool job of, like I say, making it feel lived in. I really appreciated that.
I really appreciated that too, yeah.
Good stuff.
All right. You had one more question?
Yeah, so how do you feel about the new movies in that context? So, like, because I think a lot of people, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but like with the prequels, and most people are like, yeah, I don't like those at all. Mm-hmm. But the opinions on the newer movies are a little more mixed, but mostly positive, it seems. How do you feel about them? Do you and how do you feel like they compare to the older Star Wars movies, the original ones?
That's a good question. I'm also thinking just now that, like, oh man, I wonder if there's some fans who are, like, didn't like any of these movies and are like, I wish none of the other movies had happened, and, like, the fact that it has gone on so long should not have happened, which is a fair point as well, a valid opinion, if that's how you feel.
Indeed.
So
if that's how you feel, you're wrong, but that's how you feel, you know.
That's coming from Patrick. I think it's fair if that's how you feel.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by Patrick do not necessarily reflect those of the Silly Mundane podcast. But anyway.
Yeah, so as, like, a more general, I enjoy the movies kind of fan, rather than, like, a hardcore, like, I know the ins and outs of this universe. Yeah, I don't remember the first time I watched the movies, because they came out, I think, before I was born. I don't remember the or I was like maybe too young to watch them. But
they were early 70s.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. They were late 70s, and I think the Last Jedi was early to mid 80s. So yeah, that would have been before our time.
Yeah. My parents always really liked the movies, so we did eventually watch them, and I remember really liking them. But I don't remember the moment I started watching them. I just remember knowing they existed, and I enjoyed them. And have very little recollection of how that all began. But I remember watching the new movies in the theaters, and I think I was
the prequels?
Yeah, sorry, the prequels. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, there's so many movies now. And I enjoyed them, but also there was a lot of politics going on in them, and I was pretty young at the time still, and I was like, I don't understand what's happening. This is very confusing, and they're voting. Am I just watching like a political politics in space now? And as a kid or like a young teenager, I was like, this is hard to follow and kind of confusing. So those parts of it, I was kind of like, so on, but I still enjoyed them overall. And then the latest movies had less of that, which was nice. And
a lot more Star Warsy feeling.
A lot more Star Wars, and I really enjoyed them. Like, it was fun. Okay. It was fun to revisit the universe. And
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. What about you?
My history is similar. I watched the original movies long after the fact. I remember, I don't know why I think we got it for Christmas one year or something. We got the movies because I was probably this was well after the fact. I did not watch the prequels in theaters. I watched all of them well after the fact. Probably, I don't know. I was not college age yet. I was a probably, older teenager watching them all. And I remember watching them, and kind of similar. I like politics, but the prequels are definitely not as good. I liked the choreography, the lightsaber choreography, especially in the third prequel. That one, I thought that it was ridiculous, but it was fun to watch. But ultimately, yeah, the originals were better. I fall in the camp. I really like the new movies, though. Like I said, there's as we discussed, there are definitely problems, but ultimately, I like the new movies. I feel like they are a lot of fun and a fairly worthy successor to the old movies. Not as good or perfect as those, but ultimately a very Disney Marvel, type of, this is a good, solid, interesting movie. It's not as polished as the Marvel movies, because Marvel movies are pretty, perfect in the sense of production and planning, not perfect necessarily in execution, but they have their own problems too. But I feel like these were pretty darn good. I've really enjoyed the new Star Wars movies, all of them, honestly, all three of them. I would say if I was to rank the three, I would probably, I like Last Jedi the best. Yeah, and I'd probably do Rise of Skywalker next, and I'd probably do Force Awakens after that, because Force Awakens to me was really good, but it was basically just A New Hope. It was so carbon copy that it was distracting for me. But I like the other two. They didn't feel quite as derivative of the other movies, especially Last Jedi. That was nothing like any of the other Star Wars movies, but I really liked it.
Cool.
How would you rank the three newest ones?
I don't know how I would rank it. This would require me remembering how much I enjoyed the first two very well, and I just remember enjoying them, which makes it very hard to rank all three, but overall just like solid enjoyment for all three of them. So I guess our podcast ranking will go with your ranking for now.
In this case, the opinions of the Silly Mundane podcast are reflected by Patrick's opinions. Until otherwise refuted.
Yeah. Lots of episodes later, I'm like, all right, I rewatched all three, totally different ranking. We are now updating our ranking system.
As very important, I will edit the Reddit. All right, perfect. So if you would like to tell us how you rank the newest movies, we'd love to know on our socials. You should totally listen and follow those, and yeah, do that. I may cut that out.
Well, now I feel like you should leave all of it in, including I may cut that out.
Totally. Yeah.
Go say hi, or never mind.
Totally. Now I feel like you're doing the Brady Gray thing, where Brady's like, all right, I'm going to call this out so Gray doesn't cut it out. Now I have to leave it in.
Learn from the best, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, Brady is a class act. Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. All right.
So we weren't sure if this would cover a whole episode, but apparently it did.
So, thank you guys so much for listening to the ramblings of Mad Me and much more competent Becky.
I was going to say that's very kind of you, except you didn't finish that statement for a long time. I was like, maybe it's going to be worse for me than what you said about yourself.
I would hope not. Goodness gracious. All right.
I would hope not. Otherwise, this may be the last episode.
Yeah, episode 2. It was a good run, guys. We appreciate you sticking around.
It's the end of it's not even a trilogy for us. We've only done 2. So the end of what do you call it?
I mean, an era?
No, I was going to say, what do you call if it's like 2 movies?
Is it a duology? Is it a...
That was my first thought.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's correct. I feel like there's a different term.
Yeah, I'm same thing. It seems almost like a scholastic term of some kind.
Are we just going to end the podcast with us being really uncertain about a term?
Yes.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. This part be the after credits, like, the music comes in, then after we're just still like, are you sure we should leave that in?